What mistake should have killed you? Climbed onto one of those underpasses that allow river water to flow through when I was like 5. Got swept in the current and taken down the river. Only reason I survived is my dad saw my long hair barely under the current and jumped in to save me. Playing with the laundry chute in my childhood home when I was around 5 years old. My cousins and I took turns dropping things down the chute while someone else stood at the bottom and dodged them. For the most part it was things like washcloths, stuffed animals, a clothing item, etc. Just so happened that when I stood under the chute, my cousin dropped a 5-pound dumbbell down and I, expecting something harmless, didn't get out of the way. That ended the game real quick. I now part my hair in a way that hides the bald spot scar on my head. Edit. Listen. It shoots the laundry down. Also, a weight was dropped on my head. Shoot. 3 years old. Love M&Ms. Find blue ones behind stove. Yum. Rat poison. If it makes you feel better, I read that the reason rat poison works on rats is because they don't have a gag reflex / can't vomit. Humans do, so if we accidentally eat rat poison we will vomit it back out and generally feel like shit, but survive. Obviously also get medical attention. Edit. I ducking know that there are many different types of rat poison and that it kills them because of X, Y, Z chemicals. Obviously. But if they could vomit the poison back out immediately, they would likely have a much better chance of survival. I'm saying they can't do that, which is true. Everyone can stop messaging me and chill the fuck out please. Carrying a toilet by myself after having painted the bathroom. Got caught up in the drop cloth and fell on the toilet smashing it and a piece of the porcelain cut into my knee. My father was there with me and immediately took me to the hospital as the bleeding was pretty decent. The doctor told me that the piece missed an artery by 1/4 inches and that if I had been a smaller man I'd had bled out before I made it to the hospital. Being a very large man, 6 feet 2 inches and 350 pounds at the time, saved my life. Been there done that. I worked as a plumber for 10 years. My boss used to just pile the used toilets up out back until there were enough to make a truckload for the landfill. Me and my coworker were throwing it off the back of the truck onto the pile. We decided to throw on 3. He let go on 2, and it hit the side of the truck and shattered. I was wearing leather gloves, but it sliced right through 3 fingers anyway. My grandpa told me to put some diesel fuel on it. It healed nicely, and there's only a slight scar still visible. Many years ago I owned a pub. I went upstairs to the house area to find all the lights were off. I flicked the trip switches to turn the lights back on, which they did. I then heard running water from my co-owner's fish tank in the lounge. Turns out the protein skimmer had flipped over and was spilling water over the wall socket. Instinctively, and very stupidly, went to turn off the plug, and as soon as I touched it got sent flying over the back of the sofa. Don't know how I'm still alive to this day. This was 13 years ago. I was skateboarding with some buddies at a busy shopping center. A few minutes before leaving, we were waiting at a crosswalk to cross the street. One of my friends takes off running across the crosswalk, and my other buddies follow suit. So I took off as well. I was not even paying attention to the light, but the lane crossing the crosswalk was on a green light. My 2 friends in front were in the clear, but myself and one of my other friends were both hit by a U-Haul truck. Yes really, trust me I got shit for years about getting hit by a huge, bright orange truck, going probably 40-45 miles per hour. My friend in front of me didn't get hit too bad. I got hit square in the chest. I had no clue at the time what even had happened. I was running, then I was on the ground in a daze, no pain. And I even got up and instinctually ran back to the sidewalk that I had come from. No clue I'd been hit by a truck. I was more just like what in the fuck just happened. A nurse that was at the light came and helped me, told me what had happened and helped me stay calm. She asked if I was having trouble breathing. I was. But it was attributed to me having asthma. Later found out it was because both of my lungs were punctured. Anyways, the ambulance shows up. I'm holding up very well, no clue why. Kinda just thinking okay damn I must have gotten super lucky. I'm conscious, talking fine, no biggie. They only had one bed in the ambulance, so my buddy was lying on it, and I was sitting hunched over on the bench for the ride. I wish I was joking. We get to the hospital, and I try to pull myself up to get out of the ambulance, and I can't. My shoulders hurt way too bad. The EMS guys tell me I probably dislocated my shoulder, and that I'll just have to get it popped in, and before I know it, I'll be back home. Once inside, we get put in the waiting room. No, I'm not joking. We had skateboards with us, and the desk people had no clue. They assumed we just fell on our skateboards or something. So I'm still feeling pretty good, other than some sore shoulders, just chilling there watching Wheel of Fortune, when all of a sudden I start feeling super clammy and disoriented. I remember hearing my mom screaming he's going into shock, and then next thing I know I'm being wheeled down a bunch of hallways. It was like in shows where it's a blur of those fluorescent lights just flashing overhead one at a time. I start having severe pain, like the worst pain you could imagine. But I can't be given an painkillers yet, because I have to go through a bunch of tests first. I'd assume these tests should have been done right when I got there, but what do I know? The one I really remember is having to be picked up off of the bed and put onto one of the machines that required I be on my back. They had people grab each corner of the sheet from the bed that I was on to move me onto it. I remember it kind of squishing my shoulders inward a bit, and holy shit, that was the worst pain I've ever felt. Anyways, after a ton of tests, it's found out that both of my lungs are punctured, both of my collarbones are snapped in half, broken ribs, cracked sternum, concussion, the works. Ended up spending the next couple weeks in ICU. They didn't have any hospital beds open for me at the time, so I actually ended up being transferred to a children's hospital. It was fucking sweet. People came and sang to me and brought me teddy bears and shit, and I was just jacked up on morphine watching Lord of Rings all the time. But yeah, it was a pretty tough recovery, and I went from just hanging out with a smile on my face to a scary place real quick. I went to a world-renowned clavicle specialist at Duke Medical for my collarbones. He normally had an insanely long wait list, but apparently when he found out that I broke both at the same time, he was willing to see me as soon as possible. He told me that he'd only ever had a few patients that broke both at the same time because the force required to do so almost always resulted in death. But eventually I got better, full recovery, was a bit of a hypochondriac for a while, and was scared to cross the street for a while. But other than that, no biggie. Too long didn't read, I'm a dumbass, and didn't luck both ways. The hospital is a dumbass too. I fell down my friend's basement stairs when I was 8, hit my head on the concrete floor, and ended up being airlifted to a major city hospital after being knocked out and still screaming. Ended waking up a couple days later and found out I was missing a tooth, and I was told that as they were putting a breathing tube in, it knocked my tooth down my throat, which scared the docs more. But I was super happy cause I paid Malay for the first time in the game room and ate jello for meals. Turns out that I was actually in a comatose state and gradually got worse over 48 hours until I had zero brain activity for about 6 minutes. So I guess I did die, but I didn't find out from my family till afterwards, because who tells an 8 years old that they died? Not wearing a helmet while on a bicycle and stupidly turning left just as a car overtook me. Somehow I only got a neat scar through my eyebrow and some torn up kneecaps from it. But the look on my mother's face when she picked me up from the hospital, that made me realize how profoundly stupid I was that day. Edit. I did make a turn signal with my arm, but the driver apparently didn't see it. He later went over to the hospital to ask if I was okay and to apologize for hitting me. Pissing off a cliff, wasted on Jack Daniels. My girlfriend at the time pulled me back by my sweatshirt, or that would been it. Tubing behind a speedboat. Pulled myself too far forward. It submarined and popped up in the air. I was flung forward and got tangled in the tow rope. I remember organizing my room when I was 10 or so. I had a lava lamp on the verge of falling off my cabinet. I didn't notice until I heard a loud chatter on my floor. For some reason my brain thought it would be a good idea to pick up all the shards. I jabbed my foot with a huge piece of glass and passed out from the pain. Woke up in a hospital bed thinking it, and realized the shard was gone from my foot, was stitched back up, and getting relieved looks from my family. Turns out when I passed out, I hit my head on the cement floor. I was living in my parents' basement, and cracked my skull partially open, and was bleeding profusely. I got taken to the hospital. My family thought I was dead. Edit. Concrete floor, not cement. Thanks for pointing out. Retentioning a garage door spring and the tension tool popped out. The door crashed with enough force to crack the pavement. Edit. Had no idea so many others had died doing this. Going forward would never do this again. When I was around 13 my mom bought this old house and asked me to clean out the garage. We didn't have a key, so I climbed in through the window and tried to open the garage door. It was an old one you manually opened. I crouched down and start pulling this thing up, and the top half came off the rails and swung down hitting me right in the head. Woke up, who knows how long after, with a cut on my head and blood all over. Only time I've ever been knocked out cold. Turns out mom knew it was broken and forgot to tell me. Damn it, mom. As teenagers we used to smoke pot in the garage in the car with it running for hours. No idea how we didn't kill everyone in the house multiple times over. My dad got trashed and tried to jump over the fence at Yankee Stadium with his friends. He failed and an iron spike punctured him. He remembers being rushed to the hospital and bleeding everywhere. Everyone thought he was going to die of blood loss. Didn't die, but he also made several more stupid mistakes such as riding a motorcycle without a helmet and breaking several ribs etc etc. Honestly he is still stupid and I'm surprised he hasn't died yet. Edit. With to without.